What's your most awkward bed experience? I would have to say that mine was during sophomore year of college. I had been at a party and ending up going back to my room with a guy that I vaguely knew. You know what I mean? One of those guys you're friends with, but don't actually know that well. One thing led to another and I found myself going down on him. After maybe 15 seconds, I suddenly felt a worm spurting in my mouth. Now, I wasn't an innocent virgin. I knew what to expect from the end of good head, but I had been doing my thing for such a short amount of time that I couldn't quite fathom what had happened. Keep in mind I was also not entirely sober. Well, I sat up and said in a rather shocked voice, "Dude, did you just pee?" He gave me the most horrified look and responded, no. Well, it's just that it's been a while, and couldn't really get past that. I, of course, was mortified, but the poor guy must have felt worse. He stared at me for a minute, then reached down, squeezed my boob, got up, got dressed, and walked out. Story 2. Things were going well with this girl, and the inevitable, cause hey, it's me, slowly begins to take its course. At each progressive level of intimacy, I sense some hesitation. Hand off the hips and onto the butt. Smooth sailing. Walking while kissing march to the bed. All systems go. Under the shirt action, some hesitation. However, you got a soldier on. She drugged me. Awkward. I digress. Right before the she reveals the reason for the hesitation. She's a virgin. Now that's immediately disappointing to hear. A myriad of warnings go off in my head, and all hopes of it being a memorable experience are dashed. Or so I thought. I told myself multiple times that I could just stop it. I wasn't exactly comfortable taking her virginity, but she didn't seem like the clingy type, and was likely just looking for a new experience. I'm a silly boy. Cut to the magic show being over. Lots of slow movements and making sure she's not dying. She heads to the bathroom, and after the light comes on, freaks out. I'm thinking, she's pregnant. Already? How can this be? I open the door, and she's got blood running down her legs. Now, I don't have much experience with virgins. Experienced 70-year-olds, you guys know that's the ideal. But I reassured her it was normal, and that it just seems like a lot. She gets into the shower, and is wiping the blood off of her. Then my roommate comes back, a French girl who is very curious why there's a crying, hysterical girl in the bathroom. I think I told her that she just received very bad news and was washing her face. Should have went with dead mother, but then she'd probably ask about it later. Still sounds better than a surging river of blood is gushing out of her, and she doesn't know how to deal with it. Then it gets better when the roommate departs, obviously not wanting to interrupt this romantic moment, and then it gets so much worse. I go in to help her clean up, and she's starting to calm down. Story 3. A few years ago, I went to a club for late night, 3 to 5 a.m., but no alcohol sales. While there, I met this girl who I call Pocahontas, Poca for short. She was gorgeously tan skin, dark hair, green eyes, and shape, and wearing this yellow halter top thing that drove me off the edge. I immediately started talking to her, and she really wasn't having any of it. So I back off and tell her I'll see her later on. About 20 minutes later, I run into her by the back bar. I ordered 2 bottles of water, and we resumed conversation. Turns out she was single, formerly engaged, but her fiancé passed away a few months past in a car accident. We talked about that for a few, and I told her that I was at a loss. I wanted to be respectful of her situation, but I really wanted to see what was up. She seemed bemused by this and muttered something, then invited me to her place for drinks. We take a cab from the club and head down the road. When we catch up, I learn more about her past and tell her some stuff about me. Now, mind you, my plan was to just hang out for a bit, get a solid make-out in, but then leave so she'll want to see me again. But when we get in, she pours us a drink and then it begins. She says that it's really weird that she ran into me because I remind her of Dan, her dead ex. I tell her something about how it's probably just the way our personalities are. Maybe it's because we guys all act the same way towards her. She laughs and after a second or two, asks me if I want to see a picture of them. I am really trying to be the cool guy, so I agree. We walk to the kitchen where she has a pic in a frame by some appliance. Holy shit, this dude actually looks like me. Not a real doppelganger, but if you just kind of glanced that way, you would definitely be mistaken. Even the way he posed was similar to me. I freak out a little bit, and Poker reassures me, telling me that she reacted the same way at the club when I first approached her. I see this as my moment, say something cheesy, and go in for the kiss. She responds approvingly, and we set the throttle full speed, headed toward the boneyard. But, as fate would have it, as I'm banging her with the fury of 10 men, she starts whimpering a little bit. I think it's because of my thrust power, but then she calls out her dead fiancé's name, and crying. I stop and start to pull out, but she says no and locks her ankles and asks me to stay inside her. For the next 5 to 10 minutes, she is sitting there, tell me how much she misses me, but clearly talking to her ex, and I keep laying pipe. I finish. She cleans up and asks if I was freaked out. I lied through my teeth and asked her to call me a cab. She offers to give me a ride, and I accept, but I let myself out a few blocks away from my apartment, so she wouldn't know where I actually lived. I would only see her once more, a few months later, but these 2 interactions with her will follow me to my grave. Story 4. So there was this girl, in college. We were dating for over 2 months. I was a junior and she was a freshman, and have been very sexually active because apparently, in her head, college was the time for experimentation. Being a guy with a very pretty girlfriend, I did not complain and tried to comply as best as I can. One night after dinner, she wanted to go back to my place and said that she wanted to try something new. Of course, I said that I would do anything she was willing to try. So, she went into her bag and took out a small vibrator. It was this small 4-inch thing, and it had a little twist knob on the button to make it vibrate. Initially, she said she wanted to experience what it would like to have a threesome with 2 guys, but was not brave enough to do it in real life, so this would have to do. I had no complaints because I did not really want to participate in a devil's 3-way anyways. When sexual intercourse started, she used it on her mouth first to lubricate it. This made it more exciting for me. Then she started playing with her ass, and this was great for me. It made me hornier and hornier. Seeing this opportunity, I asked if I can switch positions with me penetrating her ass while she played with her vagina. She did this and it was great. I was about to loose it when she said she wanted to do oral. This was ass to mouth. Who am I to refuse her? So I let her do it. This is where I had the most awkward day in my life. As I laid there, receiving oral sex, she decided to use her vibrator on me. Of course I thought this was weird, but fair is fair, and she slowly moved it around, and it was very uncomfortable to me. This was the first time I've ever done this, and it was a weird experience to say the least. This is when she made the move. Every guy knows this. When a girl shows a little bit of pain, you shove it in quickly. Well, she did the same. I twitched and she pushed. Pushed so far in that my ass just swallowed the entire vibrator into me. So there I am, a vibrator inside me, and I have no idea what to do. I immediately panicked, stopped, and ran to the bathroom. Initially, I tried pulling it out by myself. She was at the door, apologizing and offered to help me out. We were at this for 15 to 30 minutes. I was in full panic mode. After much pain and discomfort, she managed to get it out of me using a pair of barbecue scissor tongs to pull it out. I sat on ice for the rest of the night and had a nightmare. It was about how I couldn't get it out and had to go to the hospital to get it removed. Story 5. Had a girlfriend in college. We had been arguing and not getting along for at least 2 weeks. On a Saturday morning called me and asked me to go over to her place to pick up some things I left at her house. I picked up my things. She told me it's not working out and dumped me. I drove over to my friend's house and had a few drinks. Who shows up? The ex-GF's friend who used to always give me the sexy eyes when my GF wasn't looking. She asks me how things are. I told her my ex dumped me. We proceed to find a bedroom and have sex. I got dressed and went home for a shower. When I got out of the shower, there was a message from my GF to call. I'm thinking, oh shit, I'm caught. Nope. I called the ex-GF who dumped me about 4 hours ago. And she says that I forgot some more things at her house and to please come over to get them. I go back to her house and she yells from her bedroom window to come in. The door is unlocked. I walk into her house. She yells at me to go to her bedroom. I walk into her bedroom, and she's naked, and says that I forgot to bang her one last time for old time's sake. Okay, fair enough. I do my duties, then go home and shower again, then catch a nap for an hour or so. I wake up to loud music and the sound of people talking loudly. Turns out that my roommates decided to have a party and not tell me about it. I put some clothes on and walk out to the main area of the house to see what's going on. I had some drinks, said hi to some people, and met a woman who was really cool. An hour later, me and the new woman are in my bedroom making sweet love. Of course, it's taking me forever to finish up because it's my third time in one day with 3 different women. After about an hour of action, I hear some seriously hard thumps and some very loud and upset yelling. I tried not to let it upset my concentration, but it became difficult when they started banging on my bedroom door and yelling that I am such a big shit face. It turns out that my ex-GF and her friend had talked later that day and discovered that I had slept with both of them. They came over to my house to confront me. My roommates told them that I was shagging another girl in my bedroom. Then all awkward hell broke loose. I walked out of my bedroom, talked to the girls, did my best to calm things down, then went back into my bedroom to finish business with the new woman. Oh, college. Story 6. I was introduced to a girl one night at a party through mutual friends. I'm a film major, and her father happened to have edited some major movies in the 70s. She had amazing stories, so I talked to her for a while. It was very apparent from the beginning that she wanted to give me the business. I was reluctant, but my roommate told me not to pass up on the easy sex. She asked if I wanted to watch some movie or something back at her place, and I agreed. Knowing what that meant, we put it on and immediately got naked. We're making out and rolling around on her bed for a while. She gets on top of me and I pull away from her. All of a sudden I hear her snoring. I look up and this girl is completely passed out on top of me. I try saying her name to wake her up, nudging her a little, etc. She's not responding. I tried this kind of timid waking her up shit for about 5 minutes and then just pushed her off of me. She slumps over, splayed out naked with her legs off at weird angles and snoring like a dragon. I have to climb over her to escape. I put on my clothes and walk back to my dorm suite where my roommates are still up playing FIFA. When I come in, the roommate who told me to bang this girl starts snapping his fingers going, "Yeah, boy." I tell them what happened. The next morning, that girl's friend told me the girl had had a really great time last night and wanted to see me again. Apparently, she didn't remember anything and assumed we'd had sex. Story 7. Sophomore year of college. Had a huge crush on this girl's for a while. We were fooling around in her bed, and it got to where she is on her back, naked with her legs partially spread, and I am sitting between her legs. I reach down, but her lips are still together. I go in for a closer look and use my thumb and pointer to separate the lips. As I peel apart the lips, her vagina released the most horrific stench I have ever smelled in my entire life. It was like rotten fish, but so much worse. It was like her breathed on me, and I literally dry heaved in my throat. She is completely oblivious to this as her head is on the pillow waiting for me. Unsure of what to do, I started fingering her. After about a minute, I sneakily pull my fingers out to smell them without her seeing. My fingers had this white stringy mess on them, and the smell on my fingers was so bad I started to dry heave again. At this point, the smell of rotting vagina overtook most of the room and kind of hung like an invisible mist. However, she made no mention of it. I had a condom in my jacket, but I told her I had forgotten one and we should stop. She said, "Don't worry, I am on birth control, you don't need a condom." Since I do not know how to say no to girls, I proceeded to have unprotected sex with what smelled like a rotting body floating in the bay at low tide. I came in like a minute, pulled out and busted on her stomach, grabbed my clothes and left. Went home and cleaned my dick like it had never been cleaned before. Story 8. I brought a girl home with me one night. A nice girl, from the Christian college in the town over. Sexy times proceed, and she's on top of me. I thought she had gotten her jollies off, because I felt wet down there, but just to make sure, I put my hand down there. Something was amiss. It was a little bit grimy. I thought to myself, something's up, So I sniffed my hand. This girl had shart on my balls. After I smelled my hand, and my instantly went limp and my eyes popped out of my skull. I slowly made her stop bouncing on me and, as calming as I could, said, "Emily, could you please get off me and hop in the shower? And for the love of God, don't turn the lights on." Then it dawned on her, and she started crying, saying how this had never happened to her before. I'd friggin' hope so, and how she felt like such a bad person. We both hopped in the shower, in the dark, and I scrubbed my balls like I'd never scrubbed them before. Fortunately, the bed was clean. Seeing how my naughty bits had caught the entirety of the destruction, and I felt so bad for her that we just cuddled afterwards, didn't speak of it again, and I drove her home the next morning after buying her breakfast. Story 9. When I was with my first boyfriend, we were doing the usual learning about each other's bodies on a couch in my basement. One thing leads to another, and I end up giving him head. As I'm coming up for a breath of air, my little sister comes down and sits next to us. So my boyfriend and I are both pantless under a blanket while I'm still holding his dick, and my sister says, "So do you guys want some cookies?" As soon as she says this, he starts coming under the blanket in my hand. I'm freaking out, telling my sister to leave, while both my hands are covered in semen. She won't leave till I take a cookie. I end up wiping my hands off the best I can and taking a damn cookie, but I still effectively got a good amount of my boyfriend's jizz on the plate of cookies. We ended up sitting, still pantless, on the couch for another hour, while listening to my sister eat the rest of the jizz cookies in the next room. By far my most awkward sexual encounter in high school. Story 10. My girlfriend and I were having sex and things were going smoothly when all of a sudden I felt a rumbling in my stomach and realized I had to fart. I had to focus so hard on holding in said fart that I couldn't enjoy the sex at hand. So after about a minute of devoting my attention to clenching my hole, I decided that if I sped things up and strove to finish, the feelings of pleasure would make me forget about what is hiding behind door. It did, but in a way I didn't expect. I pulled out and started to come, so completely absorbed in my orgasm that I forgot about the fart, which swiftly and loudly made both of us aware of its presence. I was so embarrassed and immediately wanted to apologize, but my brain was still in orgasm override mode and wanted me to say, "Oh,
I'm coming. I'm coming.
Unfortunately, what came out is, "Oh,
I'm farting. I'm farting."
Needless to say, my girlfriend was speechless, and an awkward silence ensued. It really did enhance the orgasm, though. Would recommend. Story 11. I started dating this girl that I eventually lost my virginity to, at 22, and we had been fooling around quite a bit, but she was always the one to stop us from anything other than oral. So I get home and she's not there, so I decide to hit some NyQuil and pass out. She decides to come home and slam my door, shedding the shirt after she makes sure it's locked. Now I've been hanging out for more than an hour, just waiting for the NyQuil to kick in. She sees me laying there, takes out a box of condoms from her purse and throws them at me, and I can't do anything but try to knock one off before I pass out. So she gets me ready, she climbs on top and starts going at it, and the faster my heart rate gets, the stronger the NyQuil gets. The next thing I remember is waking up naked and alone. I wait till the next day to ask her about it, and she doesn't answer. Nothing from the girl for 3 days. Apparently I told her to get off of me so I could sleep. Story 12. I was 23 and drunk as f*** in the local dive bar. I really can't recall how it happened exactly. I ended up talking to a girl. She had a rose tattoo on her shoulder and bangs like Cleopatra. That was enough to get me. Her mistook her crazy for confidence, or maybe experience. Either way, I was wrong. We walked to her house, which was very close to the bar. So why not? Inside we stumbled around and drank more. A few shots from a cabinet full of liquor. Her housemates appeared and started to chat it up with us. More shots. Walking back outside to her car so she could take me home. She started the car, yeah, but we didn't go anywhere. Kissing occurred in between her playing me her favorite songs. As things got more and more heated, the mix CD was on track 4 or 5. Eventually, she unzipped my pants and started to perform fellatio on me. And then it happened, her favorite of favorite songs, which happened to be a Britney Spears track. She removed my member from her mouth and proceeded to use it as a makeshift microphone and karaoke the next 2-3 minutes of the song. I didn't know what to do, so I watched. Story 13. The other day I was out with a female friend, I'm a straight male, for a drink. I was telling her about some women I fancied. Anyway, at the end of the night we both go home to our own homes. I was getting ready for bed when she called me drunk. She started acting all jealous and asking me what I liked about the other women. She then asks me to come over. So I get there, and she in her nightie. She asks me to touch her tits. So I do. Then she starts shouting at me that I wasn't touching them with enough passion and that I would prefer to touch someone else's tits. She demonstrates on me how she wanted me to touch them and then asks me to touch them again. So I put in a bit more effort. Then she drags me to the bottom of her stairs and tells me to go. So I start walking up the stairs, but she says, "No, not up there, home. Go home. You fail." Have seen her since, and we don't mention that night. Story 14. So, there was this girl that has been an acquaintance of mine for the better part of 9 years. She's friends with a number of my friends, but we ourselves never really ended up as friends for whatever reason. Anyway, I'm hanging out at a friend's place for a football game, which I couldn't care less about, and I was chatting with some of the girls there. Suddenly, the aforementioned girl swings by the party, and we start talking and flirting in a general way. We then go for a walk outside, and some pretty serious making out happens. As neither of us live anywhere near the location of my friend's house at this point, but both want to hook up, we need to figure out what to do. My friends a few blocks away have an apartment, so my logic is, go to the apartment and see if I can use their extra room to hook up with this girl. Yup. We end up driving the short distance over there, and I just ask them, can I use the spare room to hook up with the girls? By the way, they've been friends with her since high school. So at this point it becomes really awkward. After 10 minutes of discussing it with them, I get agreement. Meanwhile, the girl I was going to hook up with thinks this is unbelievably awkward. So we decide we can't hook up there. We end up driving 45 minutes to her mom's house, which is huge, and start hooking up there. Mid-sex, her mom walks in on us. Yup. Awkward. Her mom quickly leaves, and it's too awkward to finish.